I make $60,000 a year and I can't afford groceries. Sarah posted this on TikTok 3 weeks ago. The video got 4 million views because it perfectly captured what millions of Americans are experiencing right now. You're not imagining it. You're not bad with money. The economy has fundamentally broken, and the people in power are deliberately hiding how catastrophic it really is. If you feel poorer than you did 5 years ago, despite making more money, you're absolutely right. And the systematic robbery being committed against you is more sophisticated and devastating than most people realize. Let me show you exactly how you're being financially destroyed, who's doing it, and most importantly, what you can actually do to fight back. January 2024. A gallon of milk costs $4.50. 5 years ago, it was $2.80. That's a 60% increase. Your salary didn't go up 60%, did it? A dozen eggs. $3.20 today. $1.40 in 2019. That's 130% more expensive. For eggs. Ground beef. $7.50 per pound. Used to be $3.80. You're paying double for the same hamburger meat. But here's what the media won't tell you. Food companies' profit margins have exploded during this same period. Tyson Foods increased profits by 48%. Cargill, which controls much of America's meat processing, saw profits jump 85%. They raised prices far beyond their increased costs, using inflation as cover to boost profits. This isn't market forces. This is corporate theft disguised as economic necessity. The average American family now spends $1,200 more per year on the exact same groceries they bought in 2019. That's $1,200 stolen from your family budget and transferred to corporate shareholders. But food is just the beginning. Housing is where the real wealth extraction happens. The average rent for a one-bedroom apartment in America is now $1,900 per month. In 2019, it was $1,200. But this increase wasn't driven by construction costs or maintenance expenses. Here's the real story. Private equity firms have purchased over 500,000 single-family homes since 2020. Companies like Invitation Homes, Progress Residential, and American Homes. For Rent now own entire neighborhoods. They use algorithms to coordinate rent increases across regions. When Invitation Homes raises rent in Phoenix, Progress Residential raises rent simultaneously. They're not competing against each other. They're collaborating to extract maximum rent from your paycheck. This is called algorithmic price fixing, and it's happening in every major housing market in America. The Department of Justice is investigating, but the damage is already done. Meanwhile, these same firms lobby against new construction that would increase housing supply and lower rents. They profit from scarcity, so they spend millions ensuring scarcity continues. Here's the brutal math for a typical American worker. If you make $60,000 a year, your take-home pay after federal taxes, state taxes, and payroll taxes is about $4,200 per month. After rent, $1,900, you have $2,300 left. Car payment and insurance, $900. Food, $600. Utilities, phone, internet, $400. Student loan payment, $300. Health insurance premium, $200. You have negative $100 per month before buying clothes, going to the doctor, or handling any emergency. You're mathematically guaranteed to go into debt just existing in America. This is why credit card debt has exploded to record levels. People aren't buying luxuries. They're borrowing money to afford basic necessities that used to be easily affordable on median incomes. And if you think buying a house will solve this problem, prepare for a shock. The median home price in America is now $420,000. 5 years ago, it was $280,000. But mortgage rates have gone from 3% to 7.5%. Your monthly payment for that median home is now $3,200 per month. To afford that payment, you need to earn $150,000 annually. The median American wage is $70,000. This means 60% of Americans are permanently locked out of homeownership. But here's the most infuriating part. Homes aren't more expensive because of materials or labor costs. Construction costs have only increased 15% since 2019. Homes are expensive because investment firms are buying them as financial assets. BlackRock alone has allocated $30 billion to residential real estate purchases. They buy houses with cash, outbidding regular families, then rent them back at inflated prices. They're not providing housing, they're hoarding it to create artificial scarcity that inflates both rental and purchase prices. Let's talk about transportation because even owning a car has become a wealth extraction mechanism. The average car payment is now $740 per month. Used cars that cost $15,000 in 2019 now cost $28,000. But this isn't because cars became twice as good. Auto manufacturers deliberately reduced production during COVID to create scarcity. They admitted this in earnings calls to investors. Ford's CEO Jim Farley explicitly said they would manage supply to keep prices high. Meanwhile, car dealerships added thousands in market adjustment fees. Cars that had MSRPs of $25,000 were sold for $35,000 with mandatory add-ons and dealer markups. Car insurance has doubled because insurance companies realized they could blame rate increases on inflation while boosting profit margins. Progressive's profits increased 67% while they raised your premiums. The car financing industry has become a predatory lending scheme. Average loan terms are now 7 years with interest rates above 10% for most buyers. People are paying $50,000 for cars worth $25,000 once interest is included. Now let me explain the deeper mechanisms that enable this systematic wealth theft. First, Federal Reserve monetary policy. When COVID hit, the Fed created $6 trillion and injected it into the financial system through bank reserves and corporate bond purchases. This wasn't stimulus for working people. It was asset price inflation for the wealthy. That $6 trillion went directly into stocks, bonds, and real estate owned by the top 10% of Americans. Home prices exploded because wealthy investors suddenly had trillions in newly created money to buy real estate. Stock prices soared because corporations used free Fed money to buy back their own shares. Meanwhile, working people got $3,200 in stimulus checks over 2 years, while asset owners got trillions. The wealth gap didn't just widen, it became a chasm. Second, corporate consolidation and monopoly power. Since 1980, mergers and acquisitions have concentrated every major industry into the hands of 3 to 4 dominant companies. Food distribution, Cisco, US Foods, and Performance Food Group control 80% of restaurant supply. Grocery retail, Walmart, Amazon, Kroger, and Costco control 65% of grocery sales. Meatpacking, JBS, Tyson, Cargill, and Marfrig control 85% of beef processing. When industries are this concentrated, companies don't compete on price. They coordinate to maximize profits. They use inflation as cover to raise prices far beyond increased costs. Tyson Foods didn't raise chicken prices because feed costs doubled. They raised prices because they could, knowing consumers had no alternatives. Third, labor market manipulation. Corporations have spent decades weakening worker bargaining power through union busting, right-to-work laws, and wage suppression tactics. Productivity, the amount of value each worker creates, has increased 70% since 1980. Corporate profits have exploded 420% in the same period. But wages adjusted for inflation have increased only 12%. All the wealth that workers created has been captured by shareholders and executives. CEO pay has increased 1,460% since 1980, while worker pay stagnated. This isn't market forces. It's systematic extraction of value from labor to capital. Fourth, financialization of basic needs. Private equity firms have bought up hospitals, apartment complexes, mobile home parks, and water systems. They load these essential services with debt, cut costs to dangerous levels, then extract maximum profits from captive customers who have no alternatives. When Blackstone bought mobile home parks, they immediately raised lot rents by 40%. Residents couldn't move their homes, so they had to pay or become homeless. This is the business model: buy essential services, create captivity, then exploit that captivity for profit. So what can you actually do about this systematic wealth theft? Individual financial defense. First, minimize rent extraction from your income. Use credit unions instead of banks. They're owned by members, not shareholders seeking profit. Buy used cars with cash if possible. Car loans are designed to keep you paying forever. A 10-year-old Toyota Camry will transport you just as effectively as a new one. Cook at home as much as possible. Food markup at restaurants and food delivery services is often 300% above cost. Learning basic cooking skills is financial self-defense. Use generic brands for everything. Name brand premiums often fund marketing, not quality improvements. Collective economic action. Join or organize tenant unions. Landlords can raise individual rents, but they struggle against organized tenant resistance. Cities like St. Paul have passed rent control through tenant organizing. Support worker cooperatives and credit unions. These businesses distribute ownership and profits among workers and members instead of extracting wealth for outside shareholders. Participate in local mutual aid networks. Community resilience reduces dependence on extractive corporate services. Political and policy solutions. Vote for candidates who support antitrust enforcement, public banking, and corporate windfall profit taxes. Support state and local initiatives for rent control, public broadband, and municipal utilities. These services work better and cost less when they're publicly owned instead of profit maximized. Advocate for financial transaction taxes that would make high-frequency speculation less profitable and generate revenue for public services. Long-term systemic change. The fundamental problem is that essential human needs, housing, food, healthcare, transportation, have been turned into profit extraction mechanisms for financialized capital. Housing should provide shelter, not investment returns. Food systems should nourish people, not maximize shareholder value. Healthcare should heal people, not generate profits. This requires restructuring the economy around human needs instead of capital accumulation. Other countries have done this successfully: housing cooperatives in Vienna, public banking in North Dakota, universal healthcare in dozens of nations. Media and information strategy. Corporate media won't explain this system because they're owned by the same financial interests that profit from it. Seek independent journalism, worker-owned media, and economic analysis that centers working people's experiences. Share information about corporate profit margins, CEO pay ratios, and antitrust violations. Most people don't realize how systematically they're being robbed. The 2024 economy isn't broken by accident. It's working exactly as designed, to transfer wealth from people who work for wages to people who own financial assets. You're not suddenly bad with money. Money has been weaponized against working people through deliberate policy choices that prioritize wealth extraction over human dignity. But understanding how you're being robbed is the first step toward stopping the robbery. And millions of people are waking up to exactly what's been done to them. The American dream isn't dead because you're not trying hard enough. It's been systematically dismantled and sold to private equity firms who rent it back to you at inflated prices. Recognition of this reality is spreading. Resistance is building. And the people who've stolen your economic future are starting to worry that you're figuring out what they've done. What's your experience with this economic squeeze? How has the cost of living explosion affected your family? Share your story in the comments below. Documenting these experiences builds the case for systematic change. If this deep dive helped you understand why you feel financially trapped despite working hard, please like and subscribe. We're building a community of people who understand that individual financial advice can't solve systemic economic problems. Until next time, remember, when the system is rigged against you, the solution isn't playing by rigged rules. It's changing the game entirely.